Hello, Nitroners, and welcome back to another episode of VFX with Natron. Today we're going to be looking at setting up a character for puppet animation, part 2. Well, part 2 because we failed to finish rigging it in part 1. So we already knew what the goal was last time. So let's just pop over and look at where we left off, and I did a couple of shortcuts from there, and I'm going to show you where we are now, and I'll talk about where some of the problems we ran into. So, all right. So here we are in Natron, and we can see as you know, we had some problems here. We were in the process of working on this little arm animation. With deformations, and this was working okay. This one, it's not great, but I can live with it for the purposes of this. I did do a few tweaks, and I will talk about it in a minute. The other thing we had a problem with was over here with this arm. I was really not happy with this. This is not really where the position was, and I heard somebody ask about the pivot position in here and the fact that it's way off in the middle of nowhere and what was causing it and why it was working weird and everything. And it turns out, well, the real problem, after all, I did a bit of checking around or looking at my file and adjusting things, turns out the problem really was in this point in the elbow. So we're going to skip ahead a little bit because I don't need to really go over a lot of this. I'm going to just hop over to another version of this, which is a little further along. We're sort of in the same spot, with the addition that I color-coded the arm. I did do a little bit of tweaks, and I named a few things. And other than that, it's more or less the same. I did change the way I realized that for this particular animation. I did a few adjustments to the positions of things. And I added in this transform, and I called it right shoulder for this arm. And if we back it up and play it, we can see that this is more or less the motion that we're after right here. We can see it's, in fact, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to click on this little doohickey here, this little button, and we're going to change the behavior of playback. And what we're going to do is we're going to set it, there's all these things. There's play once, there's play looped, and then there's ping pong. And I'm going to just hit ping pong for right now so that it goes back and forth. And we can sort of see this little arcing animation here that happens. And the way we can, I'll show you what happens. If we disable this radial here, we can see that the linear motion that happened here. Somebody had asked about why we have this extra little bit up here. And you can see that if we watch this hand, it's moving basically back and forth in a diagonal, a perfect line. Well, it's bending. It's not bending in an arc, which is something I pointed out. And so this is what this extra little bit up here did. As you can see that it's moving it in a sort of an out and then up. It just adds a little bit. And it's not perfect. It is moving in a linear line sort of out and then in a linear line sort of up. It's not a perfect arc, but it's close enough so that once we add in the arm swinging at the shoulder, it will be fine. All right, so let's just, for the moment, let's go back here and look at this here, which is the part we didn't do, which was adding the shoulder. And all this is I added a transform here. And, of course, we need to set it up so that this shoulder transform, and I've labeled this, as I said, we just need to set its position so that this pivot is over the shoulder. So let's just do that right now. Let's pull that over and put it up like, we'll adjust it over, and that's probably good enough for the center point. We're going to just leave it at there. And let's hop over here to to the right hand side again. And I just want to show over here that I repositioned the pivot here back to the center, and I had pointed out, I said that when we were looking at the other, that the problem was actually this. And what I did is, in the original one, this area here, this part of this particular roto was just too big. It was encompassing too much of the area, and so what was happening is that a lot of extra bits of the arm were basically going out. And here, let's just look at it relative. Before I had it, actually, you know what? We still have it up. I'll just pull it up here. Whoops, that's not the one. Woo, it's right here. All right. So if we go back to the original one, this is what it was originally, and we can see that the roto is bigger here than it was. Let's see if we go back to the first frame. Is that what why didn't that move? That's weird. All right, we're gonna go here, just like this. All right, so here we have it, and we can see this is what it was when we left off. And if we pop back to the other one, which should be this one, and look at it at the same point, we can see, hopefully, if we switch back and forth quickly, this is before. Let's zoom. Let's see, we are at 605%. If we zoom here, so this to, so I'll zoom, there it is, 400, 500, 605%. So we're basically at the same scale right here. So if we go back and forth, this is before and after. You can see that I pulled in the area around this a bit more so that it's closer. And what that did is by tightening it up a little bit, it makes it so that I could put the pivot in the center point, and it rotates better. I don't know. I think I actually may have accidentally saved over the other one as well. But if you looked at if you had done it, just know you need to bring it in a little bit better, or a little bit more. And here, I will actually pull up both so that we can see. Because originally, you might remember that these points were out here, and now they're in a bit more. So again, it cut in a little bit more. In the long and the short of that is if we turn off the upper arm here, and we animate this part, just the rotation of this transform down here, which if we rotate that, we can see that now it can rotate from the center point without a problem, and we get a nice smooth animation or smooth transition, so that this should work fine for anything that we needed to do. All right, so let's reset that to its default. And let's go on. Now, one of the problems we have, of course, is we need to start putting this all together. Okay, we've got all these bits here. Let's fit everything. We've got a head. All right, and whoops, well, I didn't mean to focus on that. We've got a head, and we're going to view it. All right, so we're viewing the head through the neck. This neck transform, all right, which is right here. That's the neck transform, and we have a body, and what we need to do is layer the neck behind the body. All right, so what that means we have to do is over here with the torso, what I'm going to need to do is put a merge node underneath this. So I'm going to hit M for merge, all right, and this is going to be, because the torso's going to be above, the neck's going to sit behind it. Here, let's see what happens if we just take it and connect it A over B, and let's move that neck down. All right, so now we've got the neck, and we're going to take its controls, and we're going to just pull it down manually, and we can move it around until it's more or less about there, and we see that it's over the shirt. It's not behind it, and that's because it's going into the A slot. So we need to actually reverse these two. So we want to put A is going to be going into the torso, B is going to go into the neck, and then the neck is behind it, and now we can position the neck. And the good news is we can just grab the neck and just pull it around until we get it basically positioned right. And I'm going to say that looks actually pretty good right about there, which also means that my position for the neck isn't actually probably very good. I want to get it closer to the neck here, so that when we rotate it, let's make sure when we rotate it that it's rotating we don't want it rotating too much from, we don't want it penetrating this neckline here. So I'm actually going to just adjust the pivot a little bit here. Let's go move the pivot up till it's about, oh, right there. That looks good. And now when we rotate it, we're looking pretty good. It's not breaking the neckline too much. It's perfect or good enough. All right, so we're going to reset it to its default. So then the next thing we need to do is, of course, we want to organize this a little bit better. So let's grab this, the neck transform node, and let's hit a period here to put in a nice node. We're going to just stick this somewhere. I'm going to have it come off to the side here. It doesn't need to actually be part of it. We'll have it come back in off of there. What we're going to do is just hit another period. Whoops. Oh, I didn't hit a period at the right place. That's fine. We'll hit a period there and bring that down to about there and over so that it comes in like so. And right. All right. So that's where it's going in. We're going to actually probably pull that up more like that. I'll have it come in at a diagonal. So it's coming out of there, down, and back in so that our graph is organized. All right. Then it's going to come out of here and it's going to go down and it's going to ultimately come into our another merge node down here. So what we're going to do is it's going to merge. The question is does our body need to go into the behind the, or does the torso need to go behind the pants? Probably. So we're probably going to have this as the background. So we're going to do a merge node from this point. Okay. And we're going to put that in here. And we're going to grab that point and we're going to hit period. And then we're going to bring it down here like this. Again, the whole reason we're doing this is so that we don't overlap the nodes, how they connect. And we have an easy to follow flow. We can see the flow comes out, the arrow goes over here, down here, and then it comes in the B. And then the A from this is going to go into the transform for the waist. And we should, why are we not seeing the waist? All right, let's take a look-see here. Our waist is down there. All right. We need to obviously set our waist to be about at the same point as the torso. Now, here's a question that we need to ask ourselves. Our transform for our torso is happening up here. It's isolated from the head. All right. And what this is going to mean, let's look. All right. Let's, for the moment, go back here and look at all three of these things combined. All right. If I move this torso bone or this torso pivot currently, whoops, let's go over here. Let's rotate it. When I rotate it, it's not rotating the head. That's not what we want to do. When we rotate this, we want it to rotate both the torso and the head together. So obviously this is happening too early. What we really want to do is change it so that it's not happening here, but after this merge here. So we need to reverse these. We need the torso to get, the head to get merged into the torso beforehand, so it's going to be up here, and then we need to move this the torso translation so that it happens afterwards, and then it comes out afterwards. And now, by reversing the two positions here, let's make sure we're getting this nice and clean. We can see that when we rotate this, now the head moves with the torso. And you know what? I'm actually looking at that head, that neck bone a little bit, and I don't like its position. I don't like that, and I don't like working with fractionals on things like this. It doesn't need to be a fractional. It will make it just uglier looking. So anyway, we're going to close that, and that looks better. I'm okay with that. All right, so we come down like this. So obviously we're going to run into the same problem down here. We have this coming down like so. We're going to want this to be reversed. We don't want the waist to occur. We don't want the waist to translate. Well, first of all, let's set our pivot. One of the big questions we're going to have to figure out is, do we want our waist pivot to be at the same position as the chest pivot point? And it may be. We'll see. But the key thing is that one of the things we need to do is obviously move that down. So let's this is the transform waist, which is called transform number 3, which is right here. We might I've labeled them over here, but we could potentially label them on our actual transform nodes. That's up to you guys. I'm not going to do it myself. I'm fine working this way. What I'm going to do is take this. We want the waist merged in behind, or excuse me, above. Excuse me. We want the pants above the shirt, because the shirt's curved and this is counter curved. So obviously we want this belt line here to go over the green part. So we're going to take this and we're going to take the transform and we're going to merge it in after it. So it's like so. Let's just organize this a little bit. Move this up a little. There we go. Now, let's make sure our view is connected to the after the transform, and let's look at what happens when we rotate the waist transform. We rotate the waist transform. It's rotating from down here. The torso transform is happening up here. So obviously we want to bring the torso transform down, so we need to take its translation position and we need to bring it down until it's lying somewhere close to a decent position for it to work. Let's see if this works there. We want to adjust it so that when it rotates, that it does not break through the belt line. And I'm not happy with how that's looking. It needs to be, I think, a little further over to the side. Actually, wait a minute. No, we don't want to translate that. We want to translate this. Let's see. Is that where we want it to be? Let's see. Let's rotate this. Let's back it up. All right. So right here, we don't want it to be, we don't want that to go out the side. So we need to obviously translate this over a little bit. Let's see if rotating it now causes it to rotate out the other side. It does. So that probably means this needs to go back to 0. And what our real issue is our pivot's not set up at a good location. So we need to either lower our position or raise our position. So let's try raising it first and see what happens. We want it to, as we rotate, stay within the belt line. And that's looking pretty good right there. I think we want to lower this a little bit more because I want this belly to be over there. Let's zero this out. And I think we may want to just, well, let's see. Let's just rotate this a bit more. Is that okay? I think I might take it one notch over. Physically, I think we're getting nice rotation right there. That's rotating through there. We're getting decent rotation forward, decent rotation back, and it's rotating nicely and staying behind the belt. And that also means that all right, let's zero that out. And then let's grab our belt line down here, which is this pivot. And we've got it, and we're going to just rotate this back to 0. All right. So now we need to bring our arms into this situation. Now, obviously, the first thing we need to deal with is the right arm. The right arm is going to be a tricky arm, all right? Because here's the situation. This is the shoulder, all right? And we need the shoulder. Well, all right. The shoulder obviously needs to connect in at the shirt. So it's going to be coming in somewhere up here after the body. All right. So, and it needs to be above the body. So let's see. So that means if it's above the body, it needs to be onto the A, which is the above. So let's put a merge node in here. And that we'll put it in here. And then for the moment, we're going to put it above the body. All right, so we're going to look at it like this, and we're going to position it. All right, let's take our position. And we're going to just bring it over. Oops, we don't want to use the Y. We want to bring it over this way. Bigger increments. And then down. Let's get it aligned up nicely. That looks pretty good right there. Make sure it rotates nicely. We're not going to worry too much about this not... if we wanted to, I'm going to just tell you guys a little secret. If you are planning to if you want to make sure that your character's limb is moved over, and you might actually animate something like the shoulders or something, a very good practice is to do what's called zeroing them. And by zeroing on that, what I mean is that you want what's called a reset position, where if you've absolutely screwed everything up and really don't know where things are supposed to be, you want to be able to say, you know what, I can reset everything by just saying it's all gone by setting everything to 0. The problem is right now this is saying 7738 for the position. And if I want to actually make that shoulder move up and down, or whichever shoulder it happens, it's going to be this shoulder, go up and down. Right now it's set so that it's offset by 77. And so if I say I want to zero that, it won't actually zero. So I'm going to show you a little bitty way. How can we do that, make that happen? What we could do is actually duplicate this. If I just take this and hit Alt and hit C, well, I have that. I make a second version of this, and I can just call that 0, or we could call that a 0 lock. We'll just, instead of right shoulder, we could put in a little thing here called lock. Okay, and what locks are done for is you put those in between. All right, and what that does is it actually translates it first. All right, and you should also color code these so they don't get confused. I usually would make them like a dark color, so I usually make my locks darker colors so that they don't accidentally move. All right, and watch what happens here. All right, because that is there, when I put this one on, you'll see that it suddenly moved. Everything moved, and you're like, what the heck? What happened? And the reason it moved is because these two now, they're identical, but we have an offset in our actual animated version of it. All right, and if I zero this and zero this, you can see that now my actual shoulder, the reason we see this over here, this is our original, this is the lock, and this is our translate, which offsets it, and then this is our actual animating object. This is so we can actually animate it. All right, so this is the actual control. We never ever want to touch that one. We want to touch this one. And so that we know that this is an animatable one, what we probably should do is give it a different color so that we know that it also represents the right side of the body. So I'm going to actually do that. And you'll see that over here, I color-coded the background to this sort of pink. So I'm going to just make it the same pink. Therefore, this pink is now representative of that side. So this translation here is a right side translation. So when I'm looking at the properties, if I happen to have both the right arm and left arm selected simultaneously, I will be able to tell that one's the one just by looking at this little color here versus having to look at the actual node name. That's why I don't actually name them. All right, I just wanted to clarify that. All right, so now this has been zeroed out. So we can see that it's zeroed out. We could have done the same thing with the neck, but it's not as important because the neck's just going to rotate 90% of the time. You could do secondary animation, whatever. Anyway, back to this. So here we go. We have this offset. It's zeroed. Everything's good. We can take our shoulder. We can, whoa, not scale it. Rotate it. Whoops, I've got the wrong thing here. Why do I have the wrong thing? That's weird. Wait a minute here. Hold the phone. Transform 6. Something's wrong. Something's very wrong. Transform 6 should be right shoulder, which is not set right. Why is that not set right? Hold on. Wait a minute. Ah, screwed up. Oh, definitely screwed something up here. You know what? We're not going to worry about it. I'll show you it when we get down to the leg I have an offset already set up down there. I apologize. Oh, I did something wrong. No. That should be right. That's right. Let me just see something here. Wait a minute. Hold the phone. I just want to see something. Rotate 1. 0. Yeah, I've got them reversed. Maybe I need to center this 0. What the heck? Reset center. Hold on. I'm not a boy. You know what? Forget it. We're not going to do that. We're going to just get rid of the lock for right now. I botched it too early. We're not going to do the right. We're just going to keep it right shoulder. Should never try and do things without double checking them. We'll keep it. Whoops. We want to keep it the pink. No, wait a minute. Why does that not look like the pink? There we go. There's pink. All right. So we're just going to keep that right shoulder. It doesn't matter. We're going to go over here. We're going to, if you want to, I'll deal with the locks, as I say, later when we're doing the actual leg. I should have done it there. I'm not thinking. I have it actually set up in a spare project, so I know it's going to work. All right. And I didn't animate these. But it's something that you want to do if you want to zero them out. We'll get into it, as I say, in a bit. All right, so problem. We have a problem here. So what's the problem? Well, if we merge this, because this is now here, we need to merge this in again, somewhere else. We want this to merge, and we want it to move above. Not only this. All right, let me explain. We're going to come back down here to this point, and we can see that, we don't have an arm. Okay, well, we want it above that as well. So, obviously, it needs to come in below the waist, because obviously we want the arm to go over the pants here. Otherwise, it would go behind the pants if we just came in from there, and we connected in from that point. Well, look what happens. It goes behind. We don't want it to come in from behind the pants. We want it to come in above the pants. So obviously we want to have this down come in after this transform for the waist. All right. So now it's above the waist and above the torso. So here's a problem we have. Let's look at, this is a real problem, something that we have to tackle and we need to know about. All right, let's disable other things so that we're only looking at the torso. If I turn the torso at this point, actually, it doesn't matter. We'll start with the torso. When I rotate the torso, we can see the arm doesn't turn. Not only does the arm not turn with the torso, but if we rotate the waist as well, we also don't get it transforming with the waist. which is a real problem. This means that no matter what we did, if we ever decide to move this, we would have to reanimate the position. We don't want to do that. That's a real nightmare. That would be total craziness. So how do we fix this? Well, that's an easier thing. So first of all, let's zero out our waist and then close it, because I don't want, and then we're going to go back to our torso and we're going to zero that out as well. All right. So what we want to do is select our waist transform node. I mean, not our waist transform, our body torso transform, which is rotating down here. And we're going to clone this. All right. We're going to hit Alt K to create a clone, and it shoved it off into Nether Neverland. I don't know why Natron does that, but it just does. All right. And we're going to take that and put that out here. And this is just going to be around, this translation node is just so that we can translate this. It's a reference to that. And by putting that in here, we can see that, oh, I'd offset it. Well, that's interesting. All right. Well, it offset it by the amount that the waist is. So what this is indicating is that we're going to have to reposition this entire thing after we've got it aligned. All right. But that's not a problem. Right now, what this has done is that if we rotate that torso, watch what happens. When we rotate the torso, we can see the arm is moving, but it's moving relative to the torso. All right, that's good. That's good. We want that to happen. All right, so zero that back out. Now, what we need to do is make it so that it also transforms relative, and I'm going to move this down a little bit so that those are sort of in line. I like that a little bit. It just will make it cleaner. Actually, no, I'll take it back, because we're going to want to do the same thing over here with the left arm at some point. Well, anyway, so now we need to take this waist here, all right, the waist, and we need to alt clone that. It's going to put that out there. And we're going to see that it too needs to be connected to the output of that transform. Let's look at it down here. So now that waist transforms comes in there, and then we say we look at this and we take it and we connect it there. Now that's interesting. This waist transform is not offset. This one is. All right. So obviously we want these all relative to one another. So what this means is we basically need to readjust our shirt. The reason it's happening is because we actually translated this transform node here. Anyway, and so whereas this waist node is, I don't believe we didn't actually offset it. We kept it at 0. So that's why it didn't shift, because of this, is it's at the exact same position. It didn't actually move. All right, so what we need to do to fix this for this particular position is we need to actually move this back up. We need to move this back up like that, and there we go. We've offset it by the proper amount on our weight, or on our shoulder. We've just moved the shoulder back up, and now let's see what that means in the grand scheme of things. That means that down here, below the waist, our arm is going to move. Let's see if it moves correctly. All right. I'm going to grab the torso, and I'm going to rotate the torso. When I rotate the torso, the arm moves with the torso. That's exactly what we want. And it means when we grab the arm and we start rotating it, no matter how we rotate it, when we grab the torso and we rotate it, that arm stays relative to it. All right. So we've constrained it so it all will move together. That's very important from the standpoint of animating it. We want to minimize our things. We have to think about these things. Otherwise, it just makes our life miserable. All right. So zero that. We've zeroed that. We'll keep the arm out it doesn't matter. Now let's go back down to our waist, and we're going to rotate that and watch what happens. We've already rotated the arm, so by doing that, we can see, aha, we have that is rotating as well. Good, we've got that set up correctly as well. All right, so by the way, the reason it's dawning on me, the reason that we didn't that this was wrong is because I did the offset after I had already positioned it, and I shouldn't have done that. And so the translation was already in there. It's we would have had, what we wanted to do was, I believe, offset the position. I think I know what the problem was. Anyway, we'll try and fix it. I'm going to try and do an offset here with the left arm, because we need to do the exact same thing here. So I'm actually going to make this left arm a little bit wider so that we can come straight down, because our shoulder over on this other side is higher up. So obviously we need to do this exact same thing here. We need to create a clone of this. Alt K. We're going to Alt K we got the torso here. And we're going to Alt K it. Whoops. Or why didn't that not? I just hit K, even though I had Alt held down. Didn't register it. Alright, so I have Alt on my keyboard, hit K. It still did not clone it. What's going on here? Come on. Alt K. That's weird. Alright, we're going to do a simpler thing. We're going to select this clone over here. No, we're not going to select that clone. What is going on here? Okay. Alright, there, it worked that time. I don't know why. Just a computer. I'm going to chalk it up to live stream. Alright. So here's our another clone of our torso. We're going to pipe that into the shoulder. This is the shoulder for the left arm, right here. All right, it's coming out here because this is the lower arm. We're trying to keep it ordered. It's coming out here. It's going into here. All right. Then we need to take the waist and we need to Alt K that. And again, we're not. There we go. Got it on the second attempt. Let's grab the Neverland. Pull it back over here. All right. I know. Just remember, these little pink lines are just the connections to their original. Those are the clone connects. All right. So we need to take the waist. We're going to plop it in there. And that gets it in there. And now the question becomes, all right. Here's a conundrum we face. All right, we're going to look at this merge node. This is the main merge node after the waist. So let's see what happens if we take this arm, the left arm, and we put it into A2. That's our first instinct here. That would merge it into it. And then we say to ourselves, aha, all right, let's try and do this correctly this time. I'm going to see if I clone this. I'm going to Alt. I'm going to clone, or not clone. I'm going to copy this, or Alt C it. Come on. Didn't work. Come on. Come on, Natron. There we go. All right. We're going to just call this one. We're going to just try and call this the lock. All right. We're going to just pipe that all in together like that. Let's see if we can fix this time and do it correctly, because I think that other one did something very weird. Let's see. If we start translating this, yes, this should have worked. We can see it's working correctly this time. I don't know. Natron, for some reason, got wonky on that other one. I think it's because we translated it beforehand, and then it didn't like the fact that it was offset. I think that this node here, this center point is may automatically be adjusting. No, it isn't. It was automatically, something was going on, something weird was going on. So anyway, don't worry about it. The key thing is that when we take this particular left shoulder node and we offset it. The key thing is if you're going to do the lock, do it before you start moving things around. So we've got the hierarchy all set up. We're going to just translate this over and bring it over. And then we say, uh-oh, it's not working right. We're in front of the other arm. All right. Well, that's okay. And we're going to put over here, we're going to put in here, by the way, we're going to put below this, we're going to put lock. The other one was actually a Natron screw up. Always lock your nodes before you do, the translation with the lock. Make sure you're doing the translation on the lock node. And let's, again, color the lock node. I'm going to make it a dark blue or darkish blue, like that, I think maybe, or no, I want my locks to be darker colors, like that. Doesn't matter that it's colored like that. And make this one so that I know that it's an animation node. I want it to be that blue so it matches. All right, so this is a lock. This is an actual animation node. All right, so this is locking it so that this here, now you can see its translation is 0. All right, that should have worked over here, but Natron screw up. We could, you know what? When Natron screws up, we're just going to, because we know that, I know for a fact that was a Natron screw up, we're going to just blast Natron with a nice cannon shot. There you go. All right. Take our frustrations out on it. All right. So how come this is layering over the other one? We want to fix that before, so it's going behind the body and beforehand. And I'm going to also go into the leg. You can see I already have the leg pretty much, or one of the legs set up. I was going to try and design the leg here, but we're going to obviously not have time for it. So I pre-made one so that we can already have it, so I can talk about it, and we'll just weave it in. All right, so for right now, the problem is it all comes into how we're connecting these all into this one merge node. This is the merge node that figures out how things are going to be. So the things that are on the left side of the body need to be behind the torso, chest, and head. So that means that this can't be, the torso can't come into the most background layer. Instead, things that are going to be happening, the thing that's going to be the furthest to the left, which is, if we think about it, our left arm is going to go behind our left leg. So that means that the left arm is going to be the furthest back bits. So we want this to be our B. All right, so that goes in there. Let's actually disconnect this whole thing for the moment and just grab B and put it into our left arm. All right, there's our arm. Now we're going to take our A and put it into, we're going to say, oh, wait a minute, our A is going to be going into our leg because A is the next layer above it. So left leg is going to come between the left arm and the torso. So we want to keep that one free. So A2 is the next layer, which is going to be the torso area, which is, so that goes into the waist. So it goes like that, see? And now the arm is behind it. And then above that is going to be our leg, which is over here. And I suppose I ought to, oh boy, I'll need to, we're going to, for the moment, what we're going to do is for, I'm going to put a dot over here. I'm going to just go over here, and in our upper leg, we're going to just put a period over here. And this is just going to be a placeholder to hold A. I'm going to take, oh no, it's going to hold, yes, A. A is going to go over to this little thing, because this is going to be, for right now, this is going to be where our leg connects into this merge, all right? That's where it's going to connect in. And then we're going to do, over here on this side, we're going to put a period over here because I want this to be where the next bit goes. That's where this other leg is going to pipe in, is going to be A3. And then A4, because the leg follows, our right arm is going to go in front of our, ow, it's going to go in front of our right leg. That is going to be A4 right here. All right, So there we go. That is how we have all the bits coming in to this merged node right here. All the parts, all right, and layered properly. And it's important that we get those layers. So now we've got it all layered in, and everything should work fine. All right. It's very important that we set that up. So let's look over here at our leg. Our leg has to work in a very different way than our arms. Our arms get driven by the shoulder movements. But our legs, we're going to be doing a walk animation, not a standing animation. And the problem is we don't have this thing called inverse kinematics in Natron. There's no way of doing this, and it's a pain in the butt. So our two options are here. Is to either animate the body moving and then try to make our legs look like they're moving along, which I'll tell you right now, it's called forward kinematic walk cycle, and you do not want to do that. It's a nightmare. You will drive yourself batty trying to make that work. Instead, what we're going to do is we're going to actually fake inverse kinematics in Natron. And the way we're going to do that is we're actually going to animate this from the leg up. It isn't really inverse kinematics because we're actually going to animate the legs in a forward kinematic direction. But the reason we're going to do this is it allows us, we're going to connect the hip to the waist after it is animated. And you know what I'm just realizing? That means that I think we actually need to... Well, I'm not going to worry. We can always shuffle these layers around afterwards. The key thing is that we're going to be working from the leg up. So what that means is that the foot, we're going to put the foot into place, and then we're going to animate the leg up to the waist. That way we can make the legs walk correctly, set up the proper foot cycle for walk. And when we animate, and then we can make the legs work to it, and it will make more sense afterwards when we get to animation. But trust me, this is the best way to do it inside of Natron. So all right, let's look at what we've got here. I've got I first want to bring up the roto that I did. And just so everybody's aware, all I did is bring down another thing that connects to our image map all the way down, and I piped it in over here to this merge node. So if we look over here at this merge node, we can see there's our thigh area. And just so everybody's aware, the thigh area is defined by this roto over here, which I pre-made. And this roto is made up of these 4 sections right over here. And I also made a roto for the other leg. That's pretty much the same thing, but for the other leg. This is already tested. I already know this particular roto is set up correctly. But let's look at the 3 pieces. Well, you have Bezier 1 right here, which is going to be the, we can call it thigh. All right. And then we have Bezier 2, which will be the calf. And then we have Bezier 3, which is going to be called the foot. All right. And you'll notice that the foot includes a bit of the lower pant leg. And that's because when we start animating this, we want the bottom of the leg, because we don't actually have a full foot. We're going to want to make the pant leg move with the foot because we don't actually have real shoe to work behind it. So we're going to move the pant leg instead. And yeah, that'll just make our lives easier. All right, so we'll call this foot. All right, and we're just doing this here. These other ones are not named correctly. I'll fix that in the final one. But anyway, this particular one is going to be our thigh. And we can see that if we look here at our thigh connection, instead of putting the thigh bone or the thigh pivot up at the waist where you would think it would be, we've connected it down closer to the knee. And the reason that it's close to the knee, and let's just show for the moment the entire thing. You can see it's at the knee area, and the reason it's at the knee is because we're working again from the foot up. So instead of it pivoting at the thigh, we're going to be pivoting at the knee instead. And that will allow it to, when we rotate it, if we go back here, I'm just going to show if we rotate this. Don't worry about the reason that this is rotating. That's because we have it showing. We've got the calf visible. So if we rotate this, we can see that we're pivoting this back towards towards the waist area. All right. So if I go over here and I look at that, okay, let's for the moment, let's just pipe that in there. All right. So if I were to move that in there, that would move towards the waist. All right. But that is not where we're actually going to be connecting it from. So that's not where we want to be. So after that, that's where our thigh is. All right, and we can zero that out by just hitting 0, 0, 0. So the next one is we take the result of this. We want to pipe that into our knee. So here's our knee. This is the next section. And we see that it comes down and it merges, and that the thigh is behind the knee. All right, so the knee goes over it so that the thigh can rotate behind the knee. It really doesn't matter. They're the same color. Depending on how you build, depending on how you what type of character you have. If it's more realistic, you're going to have to fudge around with this a little bit, because you're going to actually, if this were realistic, we would have to put in warp deformers to get the textures to bend and match, and that can get really, really tricky, which is one of the reasons we're sticking with cartoony sort of style here. I really didn't want to get into dealing with that, but anyway, we can see. So here is the knee, the two pieces connected. We can see that the thigh area, if we rotate it, it rotates around there, and it looks fine. All right, it looks like we've got a broken leg, but that's okay. We're not going to worry about that. And we go 0. So that means, what that means is that when we get down to the ankle area of the calf, you'll see that the calf actually, let's close off the thigh or the knee area for the thigh. We can see, whoops, that has animation. That should not have had remove all animation, zero that out. I had played around with animating things. When we rotate this back and forth, we can see that it rotates around the ankle area. Now this is important. This is very important. The ankle is the crucial pivot point. All right. And we're going to set this back to 0, because when we get down here, and by the way, just so you guys are aware, what's going on here is this out here is our original texture source. So you can see this is our texture, and it just comes down and it feeds into these merge nodes. And then the merge nodes connect, the merge nodes basically convert it into the individual bits. This last one happens to be the foot, and then there's the foot roto, and then the foot roto comes into this transform down here, which also seems to be rotated for some silly reason, because I must have animated it, left the animation in. Let's remove all the animation. And reset it to its default. All right. So I want to just bring up something here, which is these two, this foot control here. You'll see that this is the right foot and this is the right calf. If we double click on these, one of the things that you may not notice is that these both may not be visible. I'm going to just shrink this down. If we look at their transform, or the center points for them both, they're exactly the same. In fact, I recommend once you've set up one, you duplicate it to use as the other and just rename it, because it's crucial that these two lie on top of one another, because this foot, all this does is rotate this bit, the foot, freely. All right, this is not actually how we're going to actually position the entire leg. This does not actually transform the entire leg. And if you look at this, it would make sense, because it's coming in before the merge node. And we'll demonstrate this, because if we connect up to this merge node, which is the leg, and we unhide the bits, let's get back here to, let's close off these and make sure that I get the right one. Let's double click that. There's the foot. All right, so we have our foot here. If I rotate the foot, you can see it's not rotating the actual leg. It's rotating around the leg. And in fact, it's actually hooked up wrong. This leg, this foot should not be behind it. I've got it hooked up behind it. I set that up incorrectly. The foot should be coming in above. And let's grab, whoops. I don't want that. I want to make sure I grab. Ugh, this is going to be a pain. I'm going to have to grab that and move it. Let's just move that over for the moment so I can gain access. I want the B going up to the calf, and we'll delete that pivot point. All right. So you want your B going into the calf, and you want your foot coming in as above it. All right. So the calf is behind both the knee, behind both the thigh and the foot. All right. And this is where we start seeing why the foot has a little bit of extra. If we actually pull this back, this is pushed too far. But if we pull this back and start looking at that, notice that when we rotate the foot area, it looks like the pant leg is moving or morphing with the foot. So we can actually make it look like the foot is actually moving by including part of that. All right. And that is all done because of this bit here, by shaping it around it like we have here. Just make sure that there's plenty of room inside of it. All right. For that here, let me reset this to 0, and you can see that the roto actually comes in. Just make sure it comes in and gives beyond the edge of the seam, so that when it rotates, it has room to buffer and blend. All right. So that raises the question: well, if this is rotating beforehand, how do we rotate our legs? How are we dealing with the legs? Well, that gets down to this point over here, which is the right leg control. All right, and this right leg is actually, we're gonna actually have to extend this a little bit. I'm gonna move this roto over there, because we're gonna actually what we're gonna do is we're gonna create a lock again. All right, so what we're going to do, we're going to view this. This control here happens afterwards, all right? This is our leg control. And what this is going to be, or in the end is going to be, for right now we're going to keep it at 0, 0. This is actually, we're going to duplicate this right now before we do anything, because we saw what happened with the arms. So let's Alt-C this, so we get a duplicate. And we're going to take that and we're going to feed that into there. We want to take that and connect this into the other as the source. We're going to take this one down here, set it so that it's a dark red, so that we know that it's a lock. This is going to be the lock. And then we're going to sit here and we're going to go over to the node, and I'm going to just put at the end of it lock, so that I know that that's the lock, so that this is the control we're going to be animating, and this is the control that will position it relative to the others. So once we've got all that, what that means is that's where our leg is actually going to, this is a transform that's actually going to connect into the rest of the body. So that means this up here needs to come all the way down here and just connect into that. And we'll pull that little pivot down off to the side here. All right. So that means if you didn't see what I did there, let me explain. This is our merge node for the body. As we can see, all the bits. And we just took our leg, the output of our leg. This is our transform that's going to be moving our leg. This is our lock. And this is the point that comes out and connects into A3, which should go behind everything. All right. So now that we're looking at our actual merged character, what we should see is if we let's reset our rotation in this arm so that it's 0. So that we can see that the leg is going to actually go in when we transform the lock. Remember our lock, this is the put. Why is this lock not showing up? Where is our lock position? Here we go. All right. I think, aha. I did not set up the lock correctly, so we're gonna just get rid of the lock temporarily. The thing I forgot to do before we did the lock is I forgot to actually center our pivot point here. So we need to offset this first. All right, so let's get that centered down to where it needs to be. Bring it down here. That should... we have fractions, or don't like fractions. What in the world? That's a ridiculous fraction. Should be 79, and this is a fraction as well. Don't like that. Oi, we got a lot of a fraction. That's 109. All right, there we go. 79, 109. All right, so let's see. Let's pull this back just a smidge. I want that pretty much centered there. And 109, I'm going to bring this up a little bit. Oh, probably. I want to get this up high because I don't want it to... I want to make sure that this, when it rotates, it doesn't go through the belt. We may play with this later. Don't worry too much. Wait a minute. Is that right? Let me just think about this. Is this correct? Yes, because this... No. I apologize. I think I'm doing this wrong. I think we want this, which is a right foot. I think we want to have the translation match. So we're going to make sure. Let's first of all, this is not the lock. This is going to be an animation node. So we're going to set this to the pink, or to it's actually this pink for the legs, and then we're going to set this to. We're going to just view this, which is our position. All right, so. 78. Why is that? Yes, we're going to set that to 77 and 53. So they both line up. All right. This will make sense when we get to animating. All right. We want them to be at the exact same point. All right. They need to be identical, or we're going to have a problem. All right, I want to unhide that, and I want to make sure I unhide that control. Let's close that, and this is going to be a lock. All right, again, Alt. Let's copy that. Sorry about this. This is going to connect into there. Connect the source into this one. Put that like so. Let's rename this particular one, which is 5.2. This is going to be our right leg lock. We're going to color code it dark, and I know we're running long. I just want to make sure this is done right. Now that we've got our lock and we've got everything, now we can translate our lock, and it should work perfectly. And we want it to come over here because we want it to align. We want to see this. This is a positional lock. And this hand, right now, our hand is blocking. Oops, I'm zooming out on the wrong thing. I want to zoom out over here. Our hand, we want to move our hand out of the way. So we're going to go over here and we're going to rotate this. We are going to do one more day probably on rigging. Not too much more, but I want to move this hand out of the way. So that we can see what we're doing here. All right. I know this is a long episode. All right. So we've moved the lock. This is looking pretty good right here. So why did we do this? Well, because this is our thigh, okay? And when we want to, this here is going to actually control the position of our foot, okay? Not the rotation of our foot. This is specifically the position of the foot, back and forth. We should never, ever, and this is, we can't, unfortunately, lock off attributes as far as I know inside of Natron. There, you could, if you created custom controls, you could make them invisible, but we don't ever want to animate this, or excuse me, animate the rotation of this particular thing. This is going to only handle, whoopsie, or grabbed the wrong thing. Let's go back with that. That was the wrong thing. I grabbed the wrong control. Oh, don't. This is the problem with overlapping. We want to be down to 1. All right. This is our leg. Oh, fudge. Wait, no. I want to make sure I'm doing the right thing. Hold on. I really am worried that we just may have... No? That's right. That's right. That's wrong. Why is that wrong? Why is that wrong? You know what? I think the problem is I have my... Let me just see something here. Source. I think the problem was I had... Oh! That was what the problem is. I had the oh, fudge. We're going to have to rearrange things. All right. Sorry, the lock comes after the move node, not before it. That's why our arm broke, which means our other arm is probably broken in a similar way. I don't know. I'll double check it when we get to it. But we want to have the all right. Make sure your lock nodes happen afterwards. Sorry. So this translation, the reason we want this to be here and versus afterwards is so that when we oops, oh, excuse me. The reason we want our leg here is so that when we translate it, if we translate it, we want to be able to rotate the calf back toward, or the leg from the ankle up back towards the thigh. All right. And this is going to make sense when we start doing this. See, watch this. I can translate this back, and when I rotate this back, this tells me exactly how far away from the leg I can actually get by rotating this. Because I can only rotate it far enough so that it looks decent. So, this does not necessarily, this is not what our actual leg is going to look like here, because our ankle is actually, when it's in the passing pose, is when it's lifted off the ground, it's actually going to be more like that. This is actually what our leg is going to look like when we're taking a step. We always step off of our toes, which means our foot is actually going to be raised up off the ground. Well, the foot itself does not handle the translation. Neither does this. Neither does the calf. These are all rotational controls up here. This here is our translation. And that is the key thing. Our leg here is what deals with the translation of it. This will deal with this. And the reason we want to do that, and the reason we need it to be zeroed out, is because if we don't have this 100% zeroed out, what ultimately will happen is if we decide to try and take the leg rotations, we're going to actually do what's called mirroring, where we're going to take all the animation that we apply to one leg and copy it to the other leg, except for offset. And by doing that, it saves us a lot of extra work for a walk cycle. But we need everything to match 100%, but being offset. So that means that we have to get our offset 100% right on both of the legs. So that is why we set up this leg, and I will set up the other leg at another time and stitch it in. I just wanted to point out the process of this. So we get up to this point, and we're up to this point, and I think we're good to go. So just remember, this is the translation. The translation of our leg is going to happen with this node. All of these other leg bits are going to be rotation to bring it back, to rotate it from the ankle back towards it. And what this allows us to do is it's going to allow us to take a step, and when we actually animate, move the body to match, we actually aren't going to move the body. What we're going to do is we're going to make the walk cycle happen while he's in place, and then we're going to create what's called a stride length. And the stride length is just a simple tool used to measure it, and then we'll use that to figure out how he's going to walk, and that's going to be part of our animation section. But we need to actually set up both legs so they're done this way, so that we can, and what we're doing is we're making it so that this basically works in an inverse kinematic form. It's a pain in the butt, but I think I just grabbed the wrong thing again. Why is that not? Oh, fudge. I just did the wrong thing. I grabbed grabbed the wrong thing. We won't translate. If I pull this over and down to, if I zero this out, I know when I set it to 0 that it's back at ground level. I know that I've moved it forward. Now I'm positive, so I've moved it past its normal point. So I know, what I've done. This 0 is now the floor. I know 0 is going to be the floor. It's always going to be the floor. That is why, because I want to be able to make it so when I hit the floor, it's always on the floor. When Y is 0, the foot is planted on the floor. That is super duper important. When you're making a walking cycle, you want it to hit 0. You can overshoot it if you want, but you want it to hit 0. Otherwise, it will make your life nightmarish. All right, let's go over to this side here. Let's look at, no, we don't want to. We want to rotate this, which, all right. Just because this is becoming a pain, I want to set this back down to 1 so that we don't accidentally grab the wrong control. This is a rotational control. I'm probably going to rename these all leg rotation and so forth. I didn't want to do it before now, but I'm coming to the conclusion I want to make sure I have the right control. So I'm going to call it a rotational control. And I'm going to bend this back, and we can see that it doesn't reach. So I know that my leg position is not correct. So I'd have to go back, and then I'd have to double click on this and rotate this forward just a smidge bit. There we go. And we could just, this makes it a lot easier to actually, when we go to, and don't move those, just, we're going to pull this back a little bit until, and we got markers in here, and we want to just be able to animate this. Don't worry about the ankle. Ankle is handled all over there. We're worried about this leg, making sure that when it's taking its step, that it's, that it's doing it correctly. This character does not have very long legs, so he's probably going to take very short strides, and that is why we're doing this, is because we'd have to, this just makes it a lot easier to figure out, and we can also play with potentially moving this up and down. We could say, okay, well, the character's going to move up. Well, we can actually, that will happen. We could make an entire body. Yeah, we're going to do that in the entire body. So what we're going to probably do here. No, we're going to have to animate that. I'm just thinking about it. We're going to have to animate that in the, with this as well. All right, well. So we probably want to set this to 0, and actually if we're going to move it up, we would move the torso up for the animation, for making the body move up and down. And as we can see, the arms move up and down as well. So that's what we would do potentially. It all depends. We would move this around until we get something so that it doesn't look like his butt is sticking out, and yeah, we'd have to figure it out. But his body should probably mostly be moving up and down. basically what we're doing is figuring out the rig. We're figuring out how it's going to move and I will get into the details of that on the next video, because we've run well past the time. We're over an hour. Okay, we're almost an hour and 15 minutes. So I'm going to call this a day, and I'm going to save this. This is already saved as we're going to make a new project version, and we will pick it up sort of at this point next time. And right, thanks for watching. Keep on Natron in.